Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Today we're decoding Trump tweets of November 25th and 26th of 2018. Thomas, the first tweet reads, this is a quote from General Anthony Tata, quote, President Trump is a man of his word, and he said he was going to be tough on the border, and he is tough on the border. He has rightfully strengthened the border in the face of an unprecedented threat. It's the right move by President Trump, close quote. And then Trump continues and says, thanks, General.
Yeah, it's such an honor, Betsy, to do Trump tweets with you and attempt to decode a just very staple genius. And as I look at this, he is just very, very clearly stating the following in between the lines. If a general whose life depends upon whether he trusts the president or not, the commander-in-chief, says that Trump is a man of his word, then Trump is a man of his word. And I would like to throw the challenge out to anybody who wants to accuse Trump of all these different things. When you call him a liar, please qualify that. And if you actually can come up with a time that he's lied since he's been president, please let us know, because I don't know of any. Trump is a man of his word, and he knew he was going to be president long before he ran for president. And so he kept things pretty clean. Of course, you can't keep them perfectly clean when you're the most available billionaire bachelor in the world. And so, of course, he's got all kinds of dalliances, as it were. But that's accepted in our modern age. As a matter of fact, oftentimes leaders of countries are men who have all kinds of famous dalliances. Anyway, the point is...
I have no idea what that has to do with border control. Where is your mind today?
Well, borders. It's all about borders. It's all about borders. Are we going to have borders in America, or are we going to have a war with Mexico bleeding into our country? And that's the reason he's quoting a general. We have a war on our southern border, and he's quoting a general saying that Trump is a man of his word, and that what he's doing is, first off, the appropriate thing, and second off, it is an unprecedented situation. We have never had bought and paid for gangs of basically invaders.
Let's call them what they are. I'm so tired of hearing migrants.
Calling themselves the George Soros lie. Migrants.
It's a George Soros army. It's a globalist army. See, every army has to have people on the ground, and this is the way the globalists do. They pay these people to come and be invaders.
And sorry to have to say it, but George Soros is no longer even part of the rogue American CIA. He is completely on his own, and in this case, he's working with Venezuela, Russia, and China to basically destabilize America through our southern borders. And when in fact they're so stupid, it's just causing us to strengthen our borders. Now, I hope we close the border to Mexico and let Mexico take care of the problem. 2,200 people have died in Tijuana this year with this invasion, and knowing that 500 of them are gang members and another 500 of them are they're Middle Easterners, and a cross between Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, and a number of other radical Islamic fascist groups. So what we have here is a vicious group of invaders who are human trafficking any children that are with them. And we can explain that in a minute, why I say that, because that's the big issue here, is the Obama catch and release is what drew all these people to our border. All they have to have is a child, and they get in for free.
Next tweet. Europe has to pay their fair share for military protection. The European Union for many years has taken advantage of us on trade, and then they don't live up to their military commitment through NATO. Things must change fast.
You know, the old mythology that America is the leader of the world, leader of democracy, and therefore everyone can vampirize us is the past. That is a Henry Kissinger Council on Foreign Policy, and it should be foreign. It should be so foreign that we can't even understand that language, because that's stupid. What we need to do is exactly what Trump is doing. Charge the people who are in NATO for being in NATO, and or close NATO. And sell weapons to the people who are in NATO, so in case we close NATO, those nations can then take care of their own concerns. Because they invent the worry of Russia. I mean, let's look into, that's not in the tweets today, but the Russian-Ukrainian problem. Russian-Ukrainian problem Yeah, there's a Russian-Ukrainian problem. It's called Obama's sanctions. It's called the sanctions that have been put upon Russians that have caused Russia to become quite aggressive and create a special deal with the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 with Angela Merkel through Germany. And without that, Europe would be absolutely reeling in an economic nosedive because that's where the oil is coming from. And so what we have going on is really that European Union is simply taking advantage of America, as always, and we need to do exactly what Trump is doing, charge them, sell them their own weapons, and let them go ahead and start their own European Union army, and then we can laugh at it. But
what NATO is an example of OPM. Now, are you familiar with that term, OPM? Other people's money. If you want to do something, you want to do it on other people's money. So what you have here are the globalists who are behind NATO. They suck in the United States for all this money, and then the globalists use NATO to do their military actions against the nations that they don't like. So we got to get past this thing that NATO is some incredible thing that's saving Europe. No, it's just the globalists trying to operate and destabilize Europe.
Oh, completely. Europe is totally destabilized. And the concept that Angela Merkel, on her way out with little Mr. Macron, wants to start their own European army. Okay, did they forget about the Third Reich?
No, they want to. What they really want to start, the globalists now realize they've been outed, and we see who they are. So they've got to start their own army, just free and clear. So when they're talking about building an army, it's not for their nations. No, because these people are globalists. They're trying to build their globalist army, but so that you, the citizen out there, won't see it, they're going to call it France's new army.
Oh, yeah. And they'll go to war with anybody they want. With absolute, they don't need any kind of NATO agreement. They don't need any kind of alliance. They don't need the United Nations. It's going to turn into a complete zoo if we allow Germany and France to have their own European Union
let them
army.
Go have their own army, but let's stop funding NATO and any of their armies. Okay, the next tweet. Clinton Foundation donations dropped 42%, which shows they illegally played the power game. They monetized their political influence through the foundation. Quote, during her tenure, the State Department was put in the service of the Clinton Foundation, close quote. Andrew McCarthy. And I'm really so tired of hearing people call this play to pay. Why can't we call it what it is? It is outright racketeering, probably the biggest case of racketeering ever in human world history.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, Betsy, because the Clintons right now, you cannot enumerate how many foundations they have or the money that they're taking in. The one that you don't even know about is taking in hundreds of millions of dollars every year, the Juster Clinton Sustainability Growth Fund. Thanks to Carlos Slim and many others in the gold manufacturing business where they write paper gold when there's really no gold in the mine, Barrick Gold and all the others. Anyway, the point is here is that he is coming out swinging. Why? In between the lines, what he's saying is, yes, you are going, now that Schneiderman is gone, he's no longer the Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman of New York, who had been going after Trump and his foundation for a long time, which there can't be anything there or Eric would have found it. So now the new, because Eric, of course, got kicked out for his sexual assaults of many women, the new Attorney General is going after Trump for his foundation and using the foundation supposedly as, to write off expenses. What a joke. That foundation is clean as a whistle. It's been looked at so many times. This is going to be just like the other 84 subpoenas coming out of the Nancy Pelosi joke of a Congress. But the point is here also the emolument clause. He's pointing out that the Clintons are down to 42%. Well, yes, she isn't the Secretary of State and she's not the president. Now, the problem here is the missing 58%, which could get Hillary squished like a bug by the countries that gave her all that money when she was Secretary of State. Now, what she did at that point, she used the $84 billion in the U.S. aid fund, which is totally up to the discretion of the Secretary of State and how it's used. So when people gave to her foundation, she gave money to them and or she sold weapons to them, one or the other. 125 nations.
But in the end, these nations got taken by Hillary Clinton, and it doesn't really matter what the American people think of this. Hey, you big wigs out there in the world, the ones that gave millions of dollars to Hillary Clinton, what does she do for you? Did she just take the money and run? Looks like that to me.
Well, what she tries to do is give you an insider trading for the Clinton dynasty brand. And so she allowed China to have a courtesy copy of all 780,000 messages that came in and out of her computer while she was the Secretary of State. Isn't that dandy? And so other people got that also, probably Pakistan, more than likely Israel, and all kinds of other people. So she gave out information that literally allowed other countries, in some cases, to kill, like our ambassador in Libya, as well as other people had compromising information on our agents while she was in foreign countries using her BlackBerry, which was not in any way shielded. They want to talk about Ivanka Trump. How about Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, using her own...
Oh, please, it's not even a comparison. But look, I welcome any of these international leaders, anyone outside of the United States. If you can take care of the Hillary problem for us Americans, we'd be surely grateful.
Now, here's the thing. They want to say Trump has a problem with the emolument clause because he may be making money off of Russians. Well, of course he's making money off of Russians. Are you stupid? It's not illegal to make money off of Russians. As a matter of fact, it's the number one place to make money. The Russian oligarchs like Oleg Deripaska or Leonid Blavatnik, those are two of the largest donors, illegal donors, to our elections in America. They both, of course, had tremendous Russian meddling in our election in 2016. That's now been proven. But the point is, you want to talk emolument? Trump doesn't have any Russian connections. Now they have bought into things in America. Russians have. So what? That's not illegal. Chinese too. So what? We're not at war with them. So there's nothing wrong with that. Emolument is what Hillary did. When it is a pay to play, you pay and then she uses her position to play for you to get you what you want, as I just described, money through the USAID or weapons. Now, that is what should be looked at. Why is he doing this? Because of the attacks on him, both from the threats of Congress saying they're going to go after him for the emolument clause, saying he has Russian connections, and because of the opening of the investigation, again, the 22nd investigation from the New York Attorney General's office, unbelievable, into Trump. 22, this will be 22 that I know of, and all of them have fallen on their face except one where he settled with his university, which he told all of us he didn't want to settle, but he would settle because he was the president. He didn't want to drag it out. So he settled.
Thomas, did you see that interview that globalist media scumbag Chris Wallace did with President Trump?
Yes, I did.
Yes, it was a lovely interview, and Trump happens to bring up a tweet about that. 60 Minutes did a phony story about child separation when they know we had the exact same policy as the Obama administration. In fact, a picture of children in jails was used by other fake media to show how bad, cruel we are. But it was in 2014 during O years. Now, of course, our audience knows that that was a fake picture and that they wanted to put that on Trump. It was just more media lies.
Well, it is, and it's the huge yellow journalism of media, isn't it, Betsy? It is a disgusting display of false information through racketeering and through a monopoly across all channels that use Avid and ISIS management. They put up cages of children, okay? That was from the Obama era. And I'll go into those cages in a minute. They showed another cage of a child, and it wasn't really a cage. It was a demonstration, and it was just the front part of a cage. And yet that was all over the news again and again and again that Trump does this to people. No. No president that I know of has been for open borders. Not when they were president. Their job is to create security in this country. And if you have open borders, there cannot be security.
Yes, but they were lying to the American people because they had to say that to get our vote. But they were turning around with all these various policies, leaving wide gaps physically and legally to allow these folks in. This tweet continues. Obama separated children from parents, as did Bush, etc., because that is the policy and law. I tried to keep them together, but the problem is when you do that, vast numbers of additional people storm the border. So with Obama, separation is fine, but with Trump, it's not. Fake 60 Minutes. They're all fake.
Well, yes, and this is continuing on with the same exact thing, showing that catch and release is what was created as an Obama executive order. There is no such thing. Catch and release means you are a criminal, and if you participated in it, you're a criminal. But it was an executive order, so the people of the Immigration Service, ICE, and law enforcement had to do these things because they believed that it was legal. It is not legal. There's no such thing. Catch and release means whoever came up with that and whoever is doing it is breaking the law. Now, that can't go on. It's not going to go on. And remember, catch and release caused the largest amount of child trafficking across our southern border because criminals stole children, and this is well known, brought them to the border, got across because they said that they were their children. They had no documentation. They were caught, catch and release, and then they were released, and they were told to come back in so many days and you'll have a court case and you can then plead your asylum case, blah, 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 blah. Well, what do we have? Almost 90% of them do not return, and even then those who do return, very few of them actually get to stay. So what were we doing? That was Obama promoting human trafficking, Obama creating an invasion on our southern border, that was Obama breaking the immigration laws, that was Obama putting them in cages, that was Obama allowing the drugs and the murdering that goes on our southern border, because Mexico is controlled by drug cartels, in case the news hasn't told us that. And when the news comes out with these fake reports again and again and tries to show that was Trump, those are lies. That is against the broadcasting Truth in Broadcasting Codes, Section 320. And what's going to happen is that is an antitrust charge because of ISIS and AVID providing the same lies. And they knew they were lies when they posted them. They knew they were lies when they were broadcast.
Moving on to the next tweet. Mexico should move the flag-waving migrants, many of whom are stone-cold criminals, back to their countries. Do it by plane, do it by bus, do it any way you want, but they are not, and that's in big capital letters, coming to the USA. We will close the border permanently if need be. Congress, fund the wall. And so let me reiterate that the first tweet that we started on was Brigadier General Anthony Tata that said, President Trump is a man of his word.
And that's exactly right. And I'm going to reiterate what I just said, and that General was correct. Basically, what he's saying is Trump had to do this. We are under invasion. And he, of course, no one can actually say that because we really haven't been under invasion for quite some time. So why are we under invasion? Because the current president of Mexico ran his campaign on the promise that he would encourage all Mexicans as a right. It was their right to cross illegally into America, get a job, make money, and send that money back to people in Mexico. That's what he told all Mexicans to do. And so Mexico is not our friend. We are in a war with Mexico. I'm glad we got the trade deal done, and now the trade deal can be held over their head because we can simply close the borders. We can simply stop taking their trade. Why? Because they refuse to handle an invasion, which they in fact supported. Remember, they gave them rides. They gave them food. The police never really confronted them. A second invasion has already happened. They did very little to stop that one, and that one is filled with violent people. So Mexico is part of the invasion. We are at war with Mexico. And anyone who wants to broadcast that we should have open borders, we're at war with you too. Because, you see, that's illegal. And not only is it illegal, it makes a sham of our entire immigration system. And it insults everyone, and it makes us have the worst immigration policy of any place in the world except the European Union, which that immigration policy was devised by George Soros and his political daughter, Angela Merkel, which was an invasion of Europe. And they don't even want to quite admit that now, even though they have admitted that in 5 years there will be no nation in Europe and that they must immediately send back all the migrants because it has not worked out. We don't need to wait until that happens to America. We need to stop them at the border. And this George Soros-funded invasion of America is no different than the invasion of Europe, except that it also has Russia, China, and Venezuela supporting it, as well as that would mean Cuba and Hezbollah and Hamas and ISIS and Al-Qaeda. That's who we're dealing with, folks. So if you want to have open borders, I suggest you just invite some radical Islamic fascist terrorists from ISIS into your home to date your daughter.
Well, patriots and people who support their nation, their sovereign nation, do not support this encroaching globalism. Now we're going to move into the next two tweets. They're related. I'm going to read them together, and it's from my what I like to call now Globalist Senior Executive Service, or SES, Herr Robert Mueller, formerly 9/11 conspirator and currently the leader of the Trump presidency coup d'etat. Is that properly titled?
I like that.
Yes, because we do know he's a globalist. We know that he is the leader of the Senior Executive Service. In some capacity, he is one. We call him Herr because you really have to look at that name Mueller and wonder what is in his genealogy chart. We know that he is very deep in the cover-up of 9/11, if not being in on the planning with Blumenthal, Bush, and Cheney. And we know currently that through all these various operations of Crossfire Hurricane, he is really the singular leader of the coup d'etat. I mean, the overthrow of America and the president. So he's running a separate operation while President Trump is trying to get America back on track. You have this nemesis of SES Herr Mueller who's trying to destroy America. All right. Now, Support. Now I'm going to read this tweet in light of all of that. When Mueller does his final report, will he be covering all of his conflicts of interest in a preamble? Will he be recommending action on all of the crimes of many kinds from those on the other side? You know, whatever happened to Podesta? And will he be putting in statements from hundreds of people closely involved with my campaign who never met, saw, or spoke to a Russian during this period? So many campaign workers, people, insiders from the beginning. Ask me why they have not been called. They want to be. There was no collusion, and Mueller knows it.
Trump cannot let up on this because it's going on because of some stupid new filings of Mueller. So it's not over. And let's remember what has happened here. Mueller has indicted a Russian ham sandwich. That's it. And that's what they say about a grand jury, what they say about a special counsel. You can indict a ham sandwich. Well, these are Russian ham sandwiches that never were even in America. You know, what is it, 25 Russians who supposedly work for the GRU and for that an old company, the catering company. All nonsense, all complete garbage. And who else has he indicted? People who he caught with lying to him? Not really. Those three should be retracted, and both of them, Flynn and Papadopoulos, and Gates. Well, Gates is cooperating now, but the point is that the people indicted, complete nonsense. And as Betsy has pointed out, how about the conflict of interest in the preamble to your report? And as he's pointing out, this is a report. This isn't an indictment. This isn't an impeachment. That's what it was supposed to be. The Crossfire Hurricane was supposed to be the guarantee. It was supposed to be the committee for impeachment.
It was the overthrow. It was a coup d'etat. Stop
Absolutely.
soft-pedaling what it was.
Well, that's what it is now, and it's still going on. And so when we look at this, we have to ask, where's the DNC people? Where's Podesta brothers? How come they didn't get convicted for their obvious working with the Russians? How about Fusion GPS? They worked with Natalia Veselnitskaya for the setup of Donald Trump Jr. For heaven's sakes, it took the State Department, the FBI, the CIA, all working together to do that one.
And why are we covering for M16 and the complicity of the secret operations that were going on in Britain? And we say all the way from the Queen Elizabeth, the crown, all the way down through her Privy Council to Strategic Communications Laboratory and Christopher Steele and Dearlove and the whole shebang. Folks, It was the Brits that were planning the overthrow of Donald Trump. Mueller just one of their bagmen. These are globalists that were going to take down America. They're still trying to do it. So I say we got to release this stuff, and we've got to show how the Brits were very much a part of this whole scheme and operation.
Robert Hannigan came over from their intelligence service of the Brits and conducted the attacks and the wiretapping, physical wiretapping of Trump Tower for John Brennan's Crossfire Hurricane. I mean, the Brits, as you point out, are so guilty. It's absurd. So are some Alexander Downer, an Australian, Joseph Mifsud, all these people. And let's not forget Stroke and Page and Bruce Orr and the beautiful Nellie Orr. Let's not forget McCabe and Comey.
Don't forget James Baker, who's slinking around in the swamp.
James Baker, and let's not forget Mueller himself. He should be investigating himself because of Uranium One. How about Rosenstein? He was part of it, and McCabe was for 10 years.
Don't forget his wife, Lisa Barsumium, who represents all these people and keeps them out of trouble.
And how about John Kerry? How about Loretta Lynch?
Don't forget Valerie Jarrett and Samantha Powers. You know, she unmasked hundreds of people.
And Victoria Nuland. And how about Hilda Beast Clinton herself? For heaven's sakes, those are what he means by the people on the other side. And so, really what happens? Mueller basically is attempting a coup d'etat. And Rosenstein has already come out and said there's no collusion, there's no corruption. And in fact, they are not even investigating Trump. But then they give him questions to answer over collusion, though there can be no collusion because Comey was his subordinate. Comey perjured himself, half a dozen times in front of the world. Comey lied to the president how many times in front of the world? 6 times in front of the world. No investigation, Mr. Trump. There is no investigation. There is no investigation.
And walk it all the way back to the Queen. Whose butt does she kiss? In the end, who is she giving her allegiance to?
The Queen?
Yeah.
To herself?
No, she gives it to the Knights of Malta.
Oh, well, yes.
And
I'm sorry.
And so who in the end pulls her strings?
Well, that would be Pope Francis.
So in the end, who is it that runs this joint?
Unfortunately, the Vatican has never relinquished their power in 2,000 years, and they are.
So you're talking about the Jesuits, and you're talking about Jesuit influence and infiltration all through this country and its government, starting with that Cardinal Dolan protecting all his priest pedophiles. We're talking about Jesuit influence in our government. I say, Thomas, we need to load up all those Jesuits one night in a boat and ship them right back to the Queen.
Ooh, yeah, and load up all then the people from the city of London and the rest
you
of that
mean
boat.
The Crown agents? And
Yes.
while we're at it, can we get rid of Serco? I am so sick and tired of Serco and its patent theft, outright patent theft of good American entrepreneurs. We just got off the phone with another guy who was ripped off by Serco. Hello, people. Do not send anything you treasure and you hold dearly to the U.S. Patent Office. It is so corrupt, they would rip off your shirt if you walk in the building.
They sure would.
No, they would. They rip off everything. And you know what Serco does? They're standing front in the line, and they get the patents that they want the Queen to have.
Industrial espionage has killed at least 125 Americans who put in patents, and that's a fact. Those are the ones that we know for a fact were killed directly due to their interaction with the Patent Office. And so the same cabal that we've mentioned is the same cabal that is doing the rest of this evil. That's the same group that's leading the Mueller investigation. Some of those very same lawyers, and certainly the lead characters in the intelligence agencies like Clapper, like Brennan, like Comey, McCabe, these are the same old criminals. Podesta, Hillary, same old criminals. They've been doing this patent theft. They've been doing the political manipulation. They've been rigging elections. They've been...
Hey, I got a question. Where's John Huber? Where's his big report? You know, the one that everybody's holding their breath for in the Q community? He's going to come in and save the day? Where is he?
Oh, he came in because there were going to be so many people who had leaked that he'd have to start acting upon Michael Horowitz's indictments very, very quickly. And that's those 65,000 sealed indictments, you know. No, incorrect. Huber hasn't done anything, nothing, zero. Michael Horowitz is there to hide everything. We told you this from the beginning. And by the way, we were the only correct ones that I know of. Not even our friends at certain different alternative journalist agencies, they kept saying that we were wrong, but no, we were right.
Hey, another one I got my eyes on is this Matt Whitaker. Oh, I haven't seen any action from his office yet, and we are watching, and I want to see some serious action. There are a lot of indictments sitting out there that need to be made.
Well, they should just first arrest every official that's part of a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, or any federal judge that tries to rule in a circuit court against the president's power to protect us on the southern border.
You can't, because you see, you've got Chief Justice John Roberts that's supposed to be, protecting our FISA courts with integrity and honesty and looking over the Ninth Circuit, and he is so corrupt. Of course he's not going to call out corruption. He's got it all on him, too.
He came out in a partisan way to yell at Trump just the other day, saying that judges aren't partisan. Well, what you just said was partisan. You just said there are no such things as Obama judges and Bush judges and Trump judges. What about the Kavanaugh? That's a Trump judge. What about the fact that we almost had a meltdown of America over the fact that we know whether they're conservative or liberal before they get on any court?
I don't know. Kavanaugh is still senior executive service, so I'm going to be watching all of his opinions.
Well, just like Matt Whitaker. Just as you say, if they're SES, you got to keep a close eye on them because they came in almost illegally into that job. It predicates that they are, in fact, corrupt. What we want is the Mueller investigation to keep going long enough until every American knows that Robert Mueller was part of 9/11 and that he goes to jail and that his criminal cabal of patent thieves...
Co-conspirators?
These are murderers. They're not just patent thieves. They've killed people. And they killed people with 911. And they killed people with the lies of what they've told through the intelligence communities to the military and to the president and through actions that were taken by Obama. 2 million people were bombed based upon intelligence from Clapper and John Brennan and Mueller and Comey. These are murderers. These are serial mass murderers. And the time is up for them giving each other immunity and acting with absolute impunity. We need to do exactly what Trump has pointed out. Go after the other side.